Okay. Good afternoon to everybody. So first of all, wish you all a happy new year 2023. And so this is going to be our, I think, the first talk in the Professorial Doctoral talk series. So today's speaker is Professor MGTS Amarasekara. Let me briefly introduce him. And Professor Amarasekara joined the Faculty of Agriculture in 2002. He obtained his BSc Agriculture from the Faculty of Agriculture, University of Peradeniya, and followed by MPhil in Soil Science, and then PhD in Integrated Water Resources Management. And then he was the Dean of this faculty from 2013 to 2016. And then as a researcher, he has done a lot of publications, like 26 peer-reviewed publications, and also about 60, maybe more than 60 symposium proceedings. Before joining the Faculty of Agriculture, he was at the Department of Agriculture for 15 years, and then at this faculty he has served so far 20 years. So with this brief introduction, and also while thanking Professor Amarasekara for accepting our invitation to deliver this talk today, I cordially invite him to deliver his talk on soil health and food security. Yes, sir, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Wijayaratne, for your introduction. Dr. Tusita, Dean of the Faculty, and the members of the Faculty Board. First of all, let me express my sincere thanks to you all for giving me this opportunity to make this talk today. At the same time, I would like to express my thanks to Dr. Wijayaratne as well for making all these arrangements. Today the topic is soil health and food security. Actually, earlier I thought about soil fertility, but later on I thought that the soil health and food security is more appropriate, because soil health is a term, it gives a more broader meaning than soil fertility. Okay, what is food security? The food security is a physical, social and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food according to United Nations Committee on Food Security. It has a lot of keywords, right? If you think about the situation of Sri Lanka today, do we have food security? For example, take the students in our hostels. Do they have access to, just forget about this nutritious food, at least the sufficient food stuff? The answer is no. Not only the students, even most of us in near future, we may have to face the same problem if this, the proposed tax policy is implemented. Right now, this is the situation of our country. The reason is, we all know that we are struggling with the worst economic crisis which has ever experienced since our independence in 1948. Let me show here, sorry, yeah, can you see this one? This is the inflation rate in Sri Lanka, food inflation rate. In early 2022, it's somewhere around say 20, 25, 27, but when it comes to the October in 2022, it has gone up to 90, above 90. Later on, it show a little reduction, but still now it is increasing up. Now, this is the situation of Sri Lanka. According to the world ranking, we are the, not the first, but second, next to Zimbabwe. Now, this is the situation of the country. So, let me show you very important two figures here. See the rice yield, 2021 Maha and 21-22 Maha, two Maha seasons. This 2021 Maha is the last season where our farmers enjoyed this fertilizer subsidy. They had enough fertilizer, right? See the yield, 3.1 million tons, that is the Maha season yield. But when it comes to the 2021 Maha, it is only 1.9. We all know that this organic concept came to the picture in April 2021. After that, we had to face a lot of crises. One is the fertilizer crisis. Even the last Maha 2021, the certain amount of fertilizer stocks were available in the country, not the government sector, but some private sector companies, even though the fertilizer cost is high. At the same time, the farmers had certain amount of fertilizer in their homes. Previously, they received under this fertilizer subsidy scheme. Even under such situation, you can see the yield drop from 3.1 to 1.9. It's about 40%. 40% yield reduction. It gives something that we need to think about, the fertility or the health of our soil. See the fertilizer use and land productivity in Sri Lanka from 1960 to 22 and 20. Now this is the productivity of rice production. It very clearly shows us the agriculture productivity is heavily influenced by amount of fertilizer added. Because we all know that the plant take up all nutrients other than carbon and oxygen from the soil. If soil can provide that nutrient in sufficient quantities, then only the crops can perform well. The problem is now what is the capacity of our soil to compensate in sufficient application of chemical fertilizer. On the other words, if there is no chemical fertilizer application, what is the capacity of our soil to support the plant growth? That's why we have to think about soil health. What is actually soil health? Soil health is defined as the continued capacity, the term capacity is very important, of soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustain plants, animal and finally the human being according to US Department of Agriculture. Right? Not only the human being, it should be, it has different other components, that is ecosystem as well. There are 4 principles basically if we need to improve the soil health. One is minimum disturbances to the soil. Suppose if we cultivate 2 seasons per year, how many times we disturb our soil? Maximize biodiversity, not only the biodiversity of the above ground biodiversity, even the biodiversity in the soil, the microbial diversity. And then maximize soil cover. We all know that if you can protect our soil by mulching and all that, then maximize soil cover and maximize living roots. If there is a well-developed root system, the plant can absorb nutrients from a higher volume of soil. Now this is the 4 principle of soil health. Right. So when we consider about soil health, it directly linked to the human health as well in 2 different pathways. The one is the agriculture production, and it increases the health of the plant and animal, finally to provide sufficient and nutritious food for the human being. That is one pathway. The other one is the ecosystem services. If soil is in a good manner or so in a better position, it gives a better ecosystem services, the environmental health also increased, and finally the human environment interaction will be in a better position. So that's why we have to think about soil health. Right. So let me show you very recently took photograph about 6 to 7 weeks back. 2 locations in Abanganga. One is at the Angammadilla, it is at the lower part of the Abanganga. Other one is at the Alahara, it is in the above the section or the part of the Abanganga. Abanganga is one major tributary which directly flow to the river Mahavali. In Angammadilla, actually this 2 photographs was taken at the same day. The difference may be about 1.5 hours. See the water color of the water. No need to go for any kind of laboratory analysis. Still you can see the sediment load in the soil when it comes to the Angammadilla. So let me show you the land uses of the surrounding land use of these 2 locations. Here the in Alahara, you can see the Alahara is there somewhere here. The land use, surrounding land use is totally in a natural vegetation. Right? And when it comes to the Angammadilla is somewhere here. Now this is the Abanganga, Alahara is somewhere around here. When it comes to the Angammadilla, the right side, the right hand side, you can see is a very greenish in color, that is Wasgamuwa sanctuary. But see the other side, it's totally land use has been changed, that because of the human intervention, that is agricultural land uses. The whatever that comes from this agricultural land uses, right, you can see by looking the color of this water, that is soil erosion. That's why we need to think about soil health, right. So let me focus to 3 different regions in Sri Lanka. In terms, these 3 regions are very important in terms of agriculture. One is the Central Highlands, the other one is Kalpitia region, and the third one is our tank cascade system. In Central Highlands, actually this is a study we conducted about 10 to 12 years back, so 15 years back, in Kurundoya subcatchment. Again, Kurundoya is a tributary of river Mahavali. The upper part of the Kurundoya is very close to the Nuwara high forest area, and it directly flowed towards Mahavali, river Mahavali. The point is Randenigal reservoir. It directly flowed to the Randenigal reservoir. Now if we consider the land use of this Kurundoya catchment, people do agriculture. Actually the agriculture is the main livelihood, especially in the farming community. You know, the topography is very slope, I mean the straight slopes are there, steep slopes are there. They use terraces for agriculture, but some of them manage their terraces very well. So we can say the well managed terraces, but nearly more than, not 50%, something more than 50%, the managed terraces are very poor. So we can say the poorly managed terraces. During land preparation stage, you can see the soil is totally exposed to the heavy rainfall. Now this is the situation of the catchment. And in this study, we focus more towards soil erosion from different land uses. The gravel percentage of the topsoil is a very good indicator to show the rate of soil erosion, a physical indicator, a qualitative indicator. You can see several land uses, the vegetables in poorly managed terraces, the gravel content is about 32.8 as a percentage. Again, you can see another land use, this is tea, poorly managed. Poorly managed means not vegetatively propagated, but you know, the seedlings. There are many vacancies. The soil erosion is very high, about 31.4, the gravel percentage, because all the topsoil, the finer particles have already been washed off. See other one, the rain-fed farming system, another very vulnerable land use system here. This is rain-fed farming system, it is about 33.2. But you see in the paddy fields, it is very much low, 19.7. Even you can see the natural forest is 24.4. Very clearly shows us some of the agricultural land uses are highly vulnerable in terms of soil erosion. Now this is some of our findings, right? You can see 4 land uses here we selected. One is tea plantation, then forest garden means they are home garden type, Candian type forest garden, and well managed terraces and poorly managed terraces. Both well managed and poorly managed terraces are the vegetable farming areas, vegetable growing areas. The first slide, you can see the rainfall and the runoff, the relationship between the surface runoff and the rainfall. Almost all land uses shows higher surface runoff with higher rainfall. But see, the vegetable farming areas, these poorly and well managed terraces indicated higher surface runoff against rainfall events. It generates more surface runoff. At the same time, if you go to the next slide, you can see the sediment yield of the surface runoff. Again, well and poorly managed terraces, right, transport or generate more sediments in a surface runoff compared to other 2 land uses. Even these 2 terraces, well and poorly managed, the poorly managed terraces are more vulnerable. Right? Now, this is the situation of the vegetable farming areas in the catchment. And let's move into the nutrient transport with surface runoff. Here, let me show some summarized information of nitrate and phosphate transport. You can see the nitrate and phosphates. The first one is nitrate. Here we identified two fractions of nitrate in the surface runoff. One is the water soluble fraction, the other one is the sediment attached fraction. In nitrate, the water soluble fraction is, we all know that the nitrate solubility is very much higher. So it shows an increasing trend with the increasing of available soil nitrogen in the soil. On the other word, higher the fertilizer application, higher the nitrate removal from this vegetable farming plots. When it's come to the phosphate, it also shows the same trend, but the only difference is you can see in phosphate the particulate fraction means the sediment attached fraction is more greater compared to the soluble fraction, because we all know that when we add fertilizer, especially the triple superphosphate or phosphate containing fertilizer, it gets fixed in the soil as solid form. Therefore, the particulate fraction is higher. But all these two situations very clearly indicate us if you can reduce surface runoff. On the other word, if you can apply or adopt soil conservation measures, the most of this nutrient removal from plots, vegetable farming plots, can be reduced. So what will happen to this the nutrients? Let me show the this is on-farm effect. See the off-farm effect. Now this is another study that we conducted in this area. Here you can see, here we established several sampling points of a natural stream. Some sampling points are in the natural forest, some points are in the the tea growing areas, and some sampling points were in market vegetable, that means vegetable growing areas. And we measure the water quality of this natural stream throughout a 12-month of period. See the total dissolved solid and electrical conductivity of that water. When it flows along this natural forest area, the total dissolved solid as well as the electrical conductivity is very much lower. But when it comes to the tea growing area, tea plantation, it has gone up little bit. But in vegetable growing areas, the contribution to the water quality is very much higher. That means it shows very high total dissolved solid and electrical conductivity. See the effect of this land use, vegetable farming, the land use, exotic vegetable farming on stream water quality. We all know that the upper catchments are almost all rivers in Sri Lanka is located in the highlands of Sri Lanka. So this is the situation. So when we talk about soil health, not only the nutrient retention of the soil, but also the effect of this soil to other environmental aspects is very important. So you can get an idea about the soil health of vegetable growing areas in this location or this area. Right. Again you can see, and then let me show very important findings of our study. This is relative fertilizer use. What is relative fertilizer use? If farmers use DOA recommended fertilizer rate, the same rate, the relative fertilizer use is 100. If it is above 100 means the farmers use more than DOA recommended rates. See the paddy vegetable, the lowland paddy, it is about 110, right? And the land uses like intensive vegetable farming in potato is 220, 2 times higher than the DO recommended rates. Now this is the situation of that catchment those days, right? Not now. At the same time, the rain-fed farming, in rain-fed farming actually they have not much interest to apply fertilizer, the rate is somewhat lower. Okay. Now this is the situation. So what is the adverse impact of this? See the heavy metal contents of our fertilizers, especially the triple superphosphate, the arsenic content. There are some fertilizer stocks, according to this the research findings, the arsenic content is about 30 ppm, very much greater. Therefore, the heavy metal accumulation is a serious issue in this area, most probably because of the using this kind of low quality fertilizers. Now those are the adverse impacts. But let me show you what is the other side of this problem. This is one of the study. Actually, we conducted about 10 to 12 years back again. It's a kind of a pot experiment, right? You can see the optimum treatment at the top. This optimum treatment means this treatment received all available plant nutrient, essential plant nutrient in the optimum level. And the yield is this. We consider it as a relative yield, as a percentage, it is 100. Now see, if other nutrients are deficient, especially this minuses means the deficient nutrients. Say for example, phosphorus is deficient, so all other nutrients were added to that soil, but phosphorus is deficient. See the yield. Yield is about 62. Yield reduction is about 38. Most important thing is, see the last one, nitrogen. When nitrogen is absent, deficient, yield is only 26%. The yield reduction is about 75%. Right. So that's why the farmers came to the road. They struggled, and they performed in different ways when fertilizer is not available in the market, because they know better than us, because they are the users, they are the end users. Especially actually their demand was not fertilizer but urea, because we have to have a very good nitrogen source if we need to get a better yield. Now this is the other side of this problem. Right. And this catchment or this study area, see the three different land uses, tea, forest and vegetable. The vegetable are the more vulnerable. But if you consider the vegetable plots or the spatial variability of vegetable plots in this catchment, nearly 76% of the plots are in high erosion hazard category area. So vegetables are more vulnerable. At the same time, nearly 76% of vegetable plots are in the high erosion hazard category area. What does it mean? That means a poor land use planning. Poor land use planning, not only this study area, even almost all part of our country. But the forest is the most, the suitable land use for that area, but it is only 13%. Why? What was the reason for that? Because farmers, they continuously encroached the forest lands available in the sensitive upper catchment area to convert them to the vegetable growing plots or vegetable growing areas. Now this is the problem in this catchment. And let me show two photographs. The one is, you can see the rain-fed farming plots. There is no any soil conservation measures. They just clear the land and establish their crop. And the second one, this is the point where the Kurundoya reached to the river Mahavali at Randinikala. You can see the load of sediments which has eroded from the upper catchment area. Imagine that the height of this deposit is about 10 to 12 feet. And again, this is only the part of that soil. This is the coarser particles like sand and the other gravel and all particles. All the finer particles are already being washed off. Right? Now this is the situation. If you go to the other catchment, that is Umawaya, the situation is much more worst, because Umawaya is the stream where transport higher the great amount of sediments compared to other streams. Right. Let me go into the Kalpitia region. Now this is the recently took photograph. You can see the most of the crops are affected that because of the this fertilizer issue. Right. Growth is very poor. At the same time, we measure the nutrient content of the soil. Most of the land users, other than the tobacco, show a very low nitrogen content in the soil. Tobacco, because maybe due to some incentives given by the companies, the tobacco fields show a little bit higher nutrient content, but the almost other land users, the nutrient content, nitrogen content is very much low. Available phosphorus less than 5%, 5 ppm, almost all land users. Soil organic matter. The soil organic matter is a very good indicator to show the soil health. If soil organic matter content is in a sufficient amount in the soil, right, it increases soil health, it increases the activity of microorganisms. But you can see the soil organic matter content is less than 1% in almost all land users in Kalpitia. Now this is the situation. Potassium content, other than the tobacco and intensive cultivated lands, other land users show a very poor amount of exchangeable potassium. In general, the nutrient content in the soil is very much low or poor. The reason is, see the nutrient in the groundwater. This is the nitrate content of the groundwater in culprit here. There are many locations you can see the nitrogen content is about 10 ppm. The permissible level is 10, about 10 ppm. There are some places it's above 100 ppm. It very clearly shows us the problem in the culprit here. Because soil is sandy, the leaching the rate is very much higher, nutrient retention in the soil is low. Finally, it affects the other surrounding, the ecosystem. This is shallow groundwater aquifer in the culprit here, the situation. When it comes to the other one, tank cascade system. Now, this is a recently conducted study, one of our undergraduate students with Department of Agriculture. Actually, they use the radionucleotides, especially the cesium and lead, to measure the erosion rate of some tank cascade system in Sri Lanka, in Anuradhapura actually. You can see the Chena, the erosion rate is about 35 tons per hectare per year. Agrovale based farming system is about 15. The coconut is a perennial crop, but it is about 15. The soil erosion rate is high. So when it comes to the dry zone, the tank cascade system, most of the farmers, they believe that there is no soil erosion because lands, the topography is somewhat not flat or undulated. But it show kind of, there's a hidden, the problem is there, that is the soil erosion. But paddy fields, you can see, they act as a sink or deposited particles. So there's no erosion, but there's a deposition. Right. This is another study we conducted in the cascade system very recently. Paddy tracts in Nachadu irrigation scheme. See the nitrogen and available phosphorus content. Most of the paddy fields, the available nitrogen and the phosphorus content is very much low. It very clearly shows us the support from our soil to provide plant nutrient continuously to the crop is very much poor. This is the situation is a tank cascade system. Again, you can see the organic matter. Now this is you can see the organic matter content vary from 0.82 to 0.02, less than 1% organic matter content. Right? So this is the present situation. Okay. So what are the reasons for this one? Let me show very important some of the numbers. The land-man ratio. The land-man ratio of Sri Lanka, it varied from 1871 to 2019, about last 150 years. Our land extent is 6.55. I mean, it not changed. But see the population, it increased from 2.4 million to 22 million from 1870 to 2019. They are at, right? Similarly, the land-man ratio has gone down from 2.72 to 0.29. These figures shows us a very important information. The number one is the land fragmentation in the country. Because of the fragmentation, what will happen to the agriculture productivity? Agriculture productivity is now gone down. Okay. According to the socio-economic study, we conducted that catchment area. We identified the three main constraints to adopt soil conservation measures, right? According to the farmer perceptions. The one is the less farm income. We all know that if farmers get low income, their affordability to invest on soil conservation measures is low. At the same time, they have other priorities for their income. That is number one. The other one is the size of the land allotments. They have very small land plots, sometimes less than 0.1 hectare. Because of these small size land blocks, they are reluctant to adopt soil conservation measures, because if you add soil conservation measures like stone, the bunds or whatever it is, it also take some space, occupy some space of their lands. ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන්නේ මේ වැඩක් නැහැ මත අල්ලත් තරම් ඉඩමක් තියෙන මොකටද අපි soil conservation measures කරන්නේ. Now this is their perception. third one is very important, the land ownership. Most of the farmers who do cultivation in that area, their land ownership is not secure. Not secure. Maybe a tenant farmers or maybe there's a rented lands. Right? If you don't have a proper ownership of your land, you do not invest on soil conservation measures. So see the root causes. All these main root causes are embedded in socio-economic aspect, not technical. Not technical. That's why we have to study this kind of issues in multidisciplinary, the perspectives. We have to think about not only the technical things but other disciplines as well. Right. So if we want to move towards the sustainable farming systems, right, there are two pathways. I mean, we have to go parallelly. The first one, the integrated nutrient and pest management, we all know that. Then soil and moisture conservation is very much important. Even though the Soil Conservation Act was introduced in 1951, about 70 years back to Sri Lanka, still the soil conservation of Sri Lanka is very poor. The implementation of that, the legislation is very poor. At the same time, we have to have a proper extension service to disseminate whatever the new findings to the farming community, but our extension service is very poor. The other one is the soil test-based fertilizer recommendation. Without chemical fertilizer, you cannot go for a sustainable farming system. Right? The only organic is not the answer for the sustainable, but it should be soil test-based. We have to add only the required amount of fertilizer, not the over application or not the less application of fertilizer. At the same time, we have to provide the subsidy not for the chemical fertilizer but organic fertilizers, because we have sufficient enough of urban waste to produce compost in Sri Lanka. Only thing is the preparation or the manufacturing process is somewhat, questionable. One of our students recently conducted a study regarding the quality of compost available in the market. Almost all compost samples collected from market that's commercially available, right, the standards are less than the standards given by the SLS. The quality is poor. And if you want to move towards the organic farming, maybe it's a kind of dream. One very important thing is to develop a better market for the organic product. Right. So this is, we need to, the implement if we want to move towards the sustainable and organic farming. Finally, let me show you a very important cycle where we can see, but this is most of this, the aspects of this cycle is not visible. But you can start from any point of this, this cycle. Let's start from this. The farmers' low adoption and soil conservation measures and agronomic practices. As a result, the soil erosion and landslides increases. It reduces water quality, at the same time increases land degradation. Then it reduces the fertility deterioration, the quality of the soil, less productivity, agricultural lands. Then low income, poverty increases. Because of the poverty, farmers, their fixed or the movable assets, they will be, they sell or the mortgage, the mortgaging of the jewelries and all that. Right? If they have lands, finally, ultimately, they may sometimes sell their lands as well. It increases landlessness. Again, encroachment of sensitive lands because of the low income, low adoption of soil conservation measures. This is a kind of a cyclic path, a cyclic nature, a vicious cycle. But the thing is that we need to discontinue this vicious cycle in somewhere, in some point. Then only we can think about a good, proper, what we call the prosperous future. For that, we need a very strong and, what are the terms that I can use? A better political will. That's why 6.9 millions of people, right, voted Gotabaya Rajapaksa about 2.5 years back. But you know the present situation. We need to stop this vicious cycle in some point. Right. Finally, let me show a very important, what do you call, the statement or phrase made by one US president Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of United States. Sometimes you may have heard this one. Right? What he said was, the nation that destroy its soil, destroy itself. The nation that destroy its soil, destroy itself. He wrote a letter to all governors of the United States of the United States, and he pointed out this one: we need to protect our own soil. Most of us, I think, we are not willing to, accept American concepts, so-called what we call the Yankee concepts. But this is one we all must accept without any condition. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Professor Amarasekara, for the nice presentation. And now the presentation is open for discussion. If you need to get any clarifications, now it's the time. Please go ahead.
And sir, my question is we know that the Soil Conservation Act is there, Soil Conservation Act, and it is mostly enforced in the hilly area, the central highland. And even if I'm not mistaken, sometimes it is going to expand for the whole country, enforced for the whole country. So what do you think, sir, this role of this Soil Conservation Act, whether it is effectively enforced, or what about the government role enforcing this Soil Conservation Act, sir? Because it's there, even when we see the hilly area, we can see the boards are there and everywhere indicating that protect soil and everything. So your idea is?
Actually, the Soil Conservation Act was introduced in 1951, as far as I know. Then many amendments came to that act. But still the responsibility to implement this Soil Conservation Act is given to the Department of Agriculture, Natural Resource Management Center, Department of Agriculture. They are the responsible agency to implement this act. Right. If you think about the hierarchy of the Department of Agriculture, starting from the Director General and finally it goes to the agriculture instructor at the the grassroots level. Right. From this mechanism, along this mechanism, the power of this act should be delivered more towards the latter or the lower part, the grassroots level. But that kind of power delegation cannot be seen. That is number one. The other one is, if you think about the structure of our government, we have a central government as well as the provincial governments as well. The Department of Agriculture basically Director General is in the central government, and when it comes to the extension service of agriculture instructors, they are in the other provincial service. So the coordination between these two, that is not that satisfactory. So this kind of lot of laws, the deficiencies are there to implement this act. At the same time, again we need to, I think it is necessary to amend this act again, because if you want to delegate the power to the provincial level, then maybe some amendment should be implemented to this act. So that kind of if you think about the government sector, the coordination among different organizations in Sri Lanka is very, very poor. Right? So because of that, the implementation of this kind of legislation is,
same like others also.
Same like other legislations.
Yeah, so thank you very much.
Very much for your nice and broad and very clear presentation. My question is also somewhat what is mentioned by Dr. Karali. So you have shown us some of the constraints in adapting to these soil and water conservation measures. So out of that, I remember three constraints.
There are many, but I pointed out only main three.
If you forget about the government, what are the things that we can do to overcome such constraints? If we can do something,
You mean as a university?
As a university or as scientists, or because we know that the government may not involve. Maybe for another 10 years time.
Actually, it's not our mandate basically, but if you go beyond our mandate, yes, we have that
You mentioned that
responsibility.
small allotments and small allotments of the farmers and
Yeah.
less income and so and another one I don't remember exactly. So
Yeah, when it comes to the less income, there are two components. Say, for example, suppose a breeder or agronomist, he can develop a good variety, good agricultural techniques, and finally the farmers may obtain a better yield. But once he obtained that yield, the next part in Sri Lanka is very poor. How to sell their product, how to distribute it among the different part of the country. It is not the responsibility of that breeder or the agronomist, right? We have to have a kind of mechanism to, you know, address the other part, right? Other sections. But that is very difficult. I mean, it's not, well implemented in Sri Lanka. So this is the problem. Even when it comes to the university sector, yes, we can develop techniques and all that. But when it comes to the implement in the field, it is not our mandate. Right? We have to have some kind of support from the Department of Agriculture or other organizations. The thing is that the coordination among these different institutions is very poor. That is the number one in Sri Lanka, very poor coordination. If we want to take, say, some information or data from other government institutions, do they give it freely? No. Right? You can see. Now this is the situation of the country. We have to change a lot of things.
thank you, sir.
I mean, sorry, I have no very clear answer for your question because.
Yeah.
What about the use of high-tech agriculture? That means greenhouse, precision farming.
Yes, high-tech agriculture is one option for this. It's a one option for this. Again, when it comes to the high-tech agriculture, the affordability of farmers to, you know, invest on this high-tech agriculture is a problem. Okay, we can select some commercial level farmers and we can start from that level, and then we can, you know, transfer that knowledge towards our the grassroots level farming community. It's possible, yes. That's the one option.
We have changed our land use and focus or something like that.
Definitely.
So most of our farmers are blindly applying fertilizer.
Yes. Now the problem is, now the situation is different and they don't have fertilizers, right?
Most of the soils are sufficiently phosphorus.
Yeah.
But still,
Yeah.
we consider organic and we don't consider about magnesium or other deficiencies.
Yeah.
So we should, I think, as a university or agriculturist, we should take steps to initiate correct practices.
Yes, we can initiate correct practices, we can do a lot of research and we can come up with the findings and all that. The problem is how we disseminate that towards the farming community.
It's like when we were born, we say it's a developing country, and still now it's gone under. Like that, the extension services say, we say our extension services are poor.
Yes.
But still it's poor.
No, actually, university can play some kind of role to disseminate our knowledge, but only to a certain extent. We need the support from other government organizations, right? We need a kind of a totally, you know, change of attitudes of our the top level officials and all that. Say, for example, now see the organic policy, right? Organic policy, the prime president totally, he was dependent on non-scientific argument, right? මොනවද කිව්වේ ද සිංහරාජ හැදෙන පොර දාන්නද. Now see the arguments, හරි මේක ඇටයක් විසි කළත් පැලවෙනවා. Yes, පැලෙන බව ඇත්ත, but the productivity is low, right? මොනවද අපේ රටේ හදන්න බැරි. Yes, we can grow a lot of things, but can we grow next to rice? What are the two? One is dal, the other one is wheat. Can we grow barley and wheat? No, we can't. Now this is the real situation, right? Without scientific based evidence, we know that always the scientific data shows correct pathways, but non-scientific, you know, the arguments, statements, right, based on non-scientific things, they took all these decisions, right?
Thank you very much for the nice presentation. So I think in one of the slides I have seen that especially the potato farmers.
Yeah.
So they have used over
Yeah.
and what is the reason, especially those different types
Yeah, because everything is depend on the income that they receive from their crop. If you get a better income, a higher income, they can invest more on the agricultural inputs. The potato is a crop where you can get a very high income. Because of that income, they tend to apply more and more fertilizers, not only the NP and K, but other micronutrients as well, so-called vitamin and all that. They apply all that. So that's why the issue is there. Now situation is completely different because of this fertilizer crisis.
But the thing is that even though we have applied more and more fertilizer,
Yeah.
the plant has the genetic potential to absorb everything.
Yeah. Not.
Unnecessarily, the people are using a lot of money on putting more and more.
Yeah, that's right. That's why.
I think the farmers should be educated.
Yeah, that is the lacking part of the extension part. If soil test-based fertilizer recommendation is the most appropriate, the solution to this problem. But the thing is that it's not practiced. I mean, there are some problems and no laboratory facilities and all that we need to develop. But still, the problem is so application. Yes.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting presentation, and you brought up very important ideas on sustainability of our agricultural system. So, bringing up 2 points from your presentation, you talked about ecosystem services and land degradation. I think the key for this problem is actually we have not accounted in our decision-making process. We have not given appropriate value for ecosystem services that have been provided by these different entities. Especially in your presentation, you showed us that wherever we have forests, the water is clean and it's free use by agricultural land users. And also you showed 2 vegetations, one with good land management practices and the other one with bad management practices. So, but out there, as far as I know now, after this Paris Agreement and all that, there are people ready, not even in Sri Lanka, there are some people ready to pay for those who are doing this good land management practices. So the problem is where I think in our system we don't have a place and a way to account for the actual value of our ecosystem. So if we can pay for some farmers who are practicing better approaches, then the other farmers will be encouraged.
Definitely.
To adopt
Thing is that we have to have a better agriculture policy and environmental policy. The policy is there. We have a the documented, the reports and all that. But the thing is, again, when it comes to the practice, right, that's the problem, right? So that, I mean, that's why we have to have a very good extension service, and then we have to have, as you very clearly mentioned, the university can play a very important role to transfer this kind of, ideas, the views towards the other communities. Right, but still the situation is not, because of this fertilizer crisis, you all know that the situation is now completely different now. But anyway, I think we have to have started from somewhere, in some.
In the last couple of slides, you mentioned this farmers have different issues of for adopting the conservation strategy. So this came to me when I was visiting this Kapirigama cascade. So there was a rehabilitation program, and the soil bund, creation of soil bund was the main soil conservation method that they have suggested.
What's that?
The bund
earthen bunds.
So then during the project period, there were many interventions, and so money was there, and all the bunds were created in several plots, demonstration plots. My question is, now there are a lot of other conservation methods suitable for this area. So the Department of Agriculture, I think, recommending the earthen bunds. So is it, as you mentioned, sir, this we have to think of in a multidisciplinary perspective in this kind of addressing these issues. So if can you say like these bunds are they physical? Of course, technically they are feasible. Socio-economically, I feel like they are not accepted by the community. So they find it difficult to establish a big bunch, and as you mentioned, because of the small size. So are there any other conservation method that can be easily adapted to the farmers, like for this particular area?
You mean to the dry zone of Sri
dry
Lanka?
zone for the catchment.
Actually, as far as I know, the earth bunches in terms of cost, it is the most feasible one. I mean, if you go to the stone bunds or other kind of soil conservation techniques, you have to invest more on that. Without without any high tech or high knowledge, only the practice that we can adopt is, I think, earthen bunds. That's why the Department of Agriculture always promote it. But again, you can see now, even that kind of soil conservation measures, the farmers, the affordability to invest that kind of conservation measures is not that good, I mean. If you go to other conservation measures, I think it's more costly.
I think we have come to the end of the session on the soil health economic effects, food security. This is a very fascinating topic. Food production is going to be limited, and then this crisis stage. So this seminar series was basically planned some time back, but it's the first time that we are going to have this new segment, and it was suggested by the So this presentation will be available even after this presentation session. So let me thank the key persons here, the and all the staff members who are in this session, and also staff for thank you very much again for your question, talk, and I again thank you very much, Professor
Thank you very much.
for accepting our invitation.